Beautiful. I think we're going to get started. So as the music will slowly be fading away, we'll get started with this first soil circle. And just to get us sort of grounded in what this meeting is about, just a couple of slides to share with you what Soil Circle is. So Soil Circle is a prototype of a collaboration between Commonland, the organization I work for, and Breslin Institute. And today we're practicing one part of that collaboration as we're partnering for what we call awareness-based system change and landscape restoration. And part of that is our role as Commonland, as partners in landscape restoration, where we see the world where restoring ecosystems has become the new norm, and we are reconnected with ourselves, each other, and our landscapes. And we try to achieve this by helping with partners in landscapes turn degraded and poorly managed landscapes into thriving ecosystems, local economies, and communities. And we partner with Breslin Institute in the shift from ego to eco and our 2030 agenda around soil, regenerating places and ecologies that sustain us. And more on that later. But to get us grounded really in this session and to start, just a little framing of what we're going to be inviting you for the next 90 minutes. We'll start with a bit of actual grounding and check-in. Then we'll look at the context. What is this meeting about? Where does it come from? And how is it relevant in this time? We'll have an artist joining us with some music. We'll do some journaling together, then some sense making again in breakouts. We'll come back into the plenary and share stories with one another, and then check out also looking ahead at next soil circles and what's ahead in the future. I'm joined today by three wonderful people who will help host this session. That's Christine from Norway, Sarah from the Philippines, and Antares from Germany. And they've stepped up into various roles and will be co-hosting with me. Antares in the technical background, and the others also hosting with me. So with that, I'd love to pass on the mic to Christine to help us for a grounding exercise.
Hello. So glad to see so many of you here today. I'm going to switch to gallery view so I can see all of you. I recognize some, and there's lots of new faces and names from all over the world. Welcome. So just take a little moment to breathe and appreciate this space that we're creating. So if you just put your seat right in the middle of your chair and plant your feet on the ground and feel yourself rooting down right into the center of the planet. And you're reaching down onto this spot on this earth, which is the perfect spot for you right now. And if you bring your attention to your back and the strength in your back, the area behind your back includes all the people and living beings who have helped you get to this moment. And bringing your attention to the very top of your head, which is in conversation with all the potential of the sky and the heaven above you. And stretched between the sky and the earth is your heart. Bring your awareness to the area around your heart. And if you just want to rub your hands together, get a little warmth in your hands. And then, just wash your face a little bit and feel that. Welcome. So I'm going to pass this on now to Sarah, who's going to take us through a check-in.
Thank you, Christine and Peter. Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Great. It's really meaningful to be with you today to sense together, to discover, and eventually weave how this soil circle could look like. In many ways, many of us working in the field of restoration and regeneration are aware of the healing power of soil in ways we can restore our sense of belonging. That soil work is also soul work, or the inner soil. So to introduce ourselves, we would like to invite you to share your soil and soul story in a breakout group. It would help if we can ground it to our sense of place and an important story you hold with that place that nourishes your soul. So it can be a personal story, a social story, or a planetary story, or all of it together, where you feel a sense of identity and belonging. It doesn't have to be where you come from or where you live now. If at all you feel it's somewhere else, you're also very much welcome to share that. We will do this for around 7 minutes in a breakout group and inviting Antares, who will help us move us to those spaces together. And we look forward to inviting you back in after that and hear your soil stories.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. Wow. That was, for me, was very enriching listening to everyone's soil stories. Welcome back. So we'd love to hear from 2 or 3 people to share about what they heard and also a little bit about their own soil story. And also welcoming people to share in the chat as well. And you can also raise your hand if you'd love to be able to share in this big group together. So what is your soil or soul story and or soul story? And opening this room for that. Don't forget to unmute yourself if you're trying to.
Okay, I can start.
Yes.
I feel every time we get into those breakout rooms, I feel like we are living parallel lives. And we get to this point where we're all eager to do something. We're really in pain in our hearts with the soil or with whatever cause. In this case, we feel the soil and we want to save it. And yeah, for me, it was me starting a community garden and seeing next door a field of monoculture being burned to death, and I felt the urge to do something. And I felt the same with my group, my breakout room. So it was nice to meet and see that we're together, we're journeying together, even if we don't know each other.
Thanks, Tatiana. Would love to hear from 1 to 2 more people. And you're also, again, welcome to share on the chats if you're not comfortable to share verbally on Zoom. Where are you from? What is your soil story, or what soul story do you hold to a certain place? And what did you hear from others?
Hi. My name is Marja. I'm from Almere, the Netherlands. And Almere is actually built on former sea bottom. So that's where I'm living since 12 years. You can feel that energy. It seems that there has been a lot of shipwrecks around our house before when it was sea. So that makes it very special. But my soul has been called to take care of another soil, and that's the island of Bonaire, which is a Dutch Caribbean island, which has been eaten up by goats and by donkeys, and it has been stripped to become a step. I don't know how you say that in English. I had a very great breakout group, and the connection is always so wonderful, even it's only 7 minutes. And we got into biochar already and CO2 reduction. So it has been very rich already. So thank you for that.
Wow, just for like a few minutes together. So meaningful to discover that. Thank you. I'm seeing Petra raise her hand, or him. I'm sorry, I'm not so familiar with genders in different languages. I apologize for that. Petra.
No, that's perfect. Hi. So, yeah, I'm in Toronto, Canada, and I had a great group with two gentlemen in Europe, and we just were sharing our projects and things we were involved in connected to regenerative soil kinds of things. And it is a great place of connection, these breakout groups, because we can find like-minded people that are doing something different. And it's almost like the soil and the mycelium thing, that we're all connected, under the surface of the whole presentation. We're all connected, doing things in our own community in a very rich way. And I'm doing things in downtown Toronto, and I'm taking a resilient land management course with Starhawk from California. That's really a 3-year program. I'm in the first 6 months, and this is the month of soil. And, really getting into compost, and have lots of friends and projects in the city here that are doing wonderful things with kids gardening and all kinds of stuff. So it feels really rich. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra. So it's really also meaningful to hear from different parts of the world, and also where our sense of belonging can also be related to other parts of the world, and also the purpose of our work, where we work with regeneration, with biochar. And then also in my group, I also heard about the common grounds where we work with, where we tell our soil stories, also working with animals, where animals live in the two women, the places of the two women I shared a room with. So thank you so much for sharing that intimate space with 2 to 3 other people. And we hope that is like that first connection we could eventually grow as we journey together in this soil circle journey. This is only the first session. And so we're gonna try to build into the context further into this circle. I'm gonna weave our soil story with why we as co-hosts are also shaping this together. And so for me, my soil and soul story work is rooted in the Philippines. And my work is really with the healing of the lands, and starting also with myself, and healing my grief work with the land that I've inherited, and also with climate and conflict related disasters where people are displaced, and we work with gardens to support them with food, nutrition, waste management, mental health, and even livelihoods. And I'm also working with Common Land, where we are working with Theory U for a national landscape lab to help scale restoration efforts, because we have so much climate vulnerability in my country. And then I've witnessed through the years that soil work is work that help reclaim the sense of belonging, where people lose their homes from floods or the winds. The gardens we grow offer pockets of home and hope, and a connection to their foodways, their medicine, their rituals and identities. This way has also led me with working with Indigenous groups to use the arts and culture to document their natural and cultural heritage, because these are all disappearing, from monocultures to climate change, or forests being destroyed. And then that way, in the process, also held space for decolonizing regenerative agriculture, and ways we can create new narratives within the global North and South on how regeneration can be our way of helping everybody survive and thrive. And with that, I'm also inviting my colleagues, Peter, Christine, and Antares, to share their own soil stories, building into the context of why we're also shaping this lab this journey together with you. So over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Sarah. And with my soil story, I'll also add a bit of context to the history and the legacy of this soil circle. But if I think about my soil story, that brings me to Sweden, where I lived for some time. And I lived on a biodynamic farm. And in order to get from my house to my work, I would cross the fields every day. And it was in the process of crossing these fields that I was contemplating about the power of soil being such a central lens in approaching our whole relationship between people and nature. It's through the cultivation of soil that we grow our food. It's also through the recycling processes of soil that ecosystems take care of the waste, you could say, from falling leaves to animal manure. And I started to see soil as almost an inverted stomach, how as we take food into our bodies and process that, and in that process find the life energy and nourishment for our lives, and also the conditions for us to have thoughts and ideas and dreams. And then on the other side of that, the soil being the other sort of side of the lemniscate. And soil also being so central to the climate discussion and biodiversity and so on, and also being so hidden. So it's almost like a spiritual realm. You don't know everything that's going on. You can't grasp everything that's going on, and yet it has such a powerful influence. And it was this realization that put me on a soil journey, and has also brought me to this first soil circle, and also inspired me to bring this idea of a soil circle to fruition with others. And I'll bring a bit of the context in again of soil circles and where it originated. There is this article that was posted by Otto Scharmer, co-founder of the Presencing Institute, last year, called "The Power of Soil." And Antares will share the link in the chat in a minute. And it's just over a year ago, and really talks to why soil is on the agenda for the Presencing Institute as a sort of global acupuncture point, and what the power of soil is, and how it's a blind spot for actually dealing with all kinds of challenges related to climate, food systems, biodiversity, etc. And next stage is more recently, where the Presencing Institute hosted a live session of Gaia, the 1st of April this spring, cultivating the soil in collaboration with Commonland. And we were able to bring a voice from one of the landscapes where Commonland's working in Australia. And in the chat will be a link to the recording in case you missed it. And it's this article and conversation that we've had within the wider community of the Presencing Institute, that we talked about the soil circle, which we believe as the host could be a space that brings together those that are working within the Presencing Institute's community around food, farm, and climate, with those within the Commonland community and beyond around awareness-based system change, or we could call ecosystem restoration, as well as ecosystem leadership. And there's a couple of questions that are driving us. Which one of them is, how can we invite, or what space can we invite people into around soil as an acupuncture point? And this soil circle today being the first prototype of what that could look like. But also, where do the physical soil challenge of soil degradation, as well as maybe the soul or our social soil interweave? So if we talk about finding common ground among people, or we can also talk about finding common soil around people, nourishing that soil or tending that soil in order to grow our ideas or our dreams. So where do they interrelate? And then also, how can we cultivate the social soil in order to restore our global physical soil? So we believe that the intersect of those is very powerful, and this soil circle is an attempt to address that. So that's my contribution to the context for now. Happy to pass on to Christine.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Yes, so I am an artist and the creative director of an arts and media organization in Northern Norway. We work a lot on the future and on trying to bend the arc of change through creative collaboration. And one of the key issues that we work on is climate and biodiversity in the north. And I have to say, after a few years of that, I started to feel really down. As Joanna Macy would say, I was feeling pain. And I started to, though, find my way. I felt really embraced and welcomed by the land and the water here. We have mountains and sea close together, fresh water and salt water mixing, and it's been it's really great. It's literally feeding me, and but also my soul. And I'm very glad to have people in the space, and some of the intentions that I'm bringing into this space are, one is that Soil Circle might be a way that we can learn from one another, especially for practitioners, people at any stage really, but you know, there's always that one stuck that we have that's really persistent. But when we bring it into a group like this, we can actually start to see patterns that are only appear when you see things as a group. I'm also really excited to lift up voices from communities that are facing crisis every day, and not least because their land and water is sick. And finally, I'd say that through Theory U, which I've been practicing for the last couple of years inside our organization and now outside, starting as a facilitator, looking for shifts in the social field, and especially looking to cultures that are life enhancing, particularly indigenous communities who are only 5% of the human population, but actually steward about 80% of the world's biodiversity. So I'm really excited to have this global group, people from North and South and East and West, and very curious as to what can come out. Antares?
Yes, thank you, Christine. Yeah, I'm Antares. I'm living in Hamburg, and I'm working as an IT project manager and also in facilitation. And I came across the topic of soil and food about 10 years ago. I made a permaculture course, and that made me realize that there are still ways to counteract the climate chaos. But what finally convinced me to work in this field was the realization that agriculture and the way we treat nature contributes to almost 30% of the climate chaos. And so I started to accompany groups and organizations in transformation processes. And about 8 years ago, I got to know the Theory U, and Peter mentioned it already. And for me, a very effective framework for awareness-based system change. And this I have integrated in my work as a facilitator. And I accompany processes, and I'm involved in some projects, but I think I can be more effective to help groups to set up their projects. And I'm at the moment involved in a project which is called Farm Food Climate Challenge. That's a project in Germany, which brings 100 projects about farm and food together. And we are learning together and organizing how we can handle this challenge. And I'm very curious about what will happen here in our Soil Circle. So I hand it over to Christine or to Peter.
Hi, so we are almost, I think, around midway through the session, and we're going to do some journaling, but to get us to sort of think about the things that have come up already and to settle in the space, I'd like to invite Ernie Roby Tomic, a musician and multi-artist, to play some music for a few minutes and let us just enjoy that. Ernie is from West Virginia, community that has a lot of, he lives in Norway now, a community that has a lot of mountaintop removal. So soil is a big issue
Thank you, Christine. Hi, everyone. Stay with me for just a few minutes. I'm being told there's no sound.
There isn't. There is no. Go ahead. It's all good.
That's very strange because it was indicating there was sound.
There is sound. Yeah,
There's
you're good to
sound.
go.
Okay.
I think you just hadn't started yet. Go on.
Great sound.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So, wow, there was this conversation about the sea being also part of the soil, and somehow I was reading that and listening to the music and feeling that as well. So it's a kind of coincidence. We're gonna move on to guided journaling. So I hope everyone has a pen and paper, or you can open like a little text document in your computer or so. These thoughts are for yourself, although afterwards we're going to go into breakouts and you can share if you want to with the others. And for those who are new to journaling, journaling is not about a considered response. It's about listening to a question, putting your pencil on the paper and writing whatever comes out. So it's gonna feel potentially a little short, but it's actually just this moment not to have to think hard, but just to see what comes out when you ask yourself this question. So the first of the three questions is about also our soil story and the different levels of soil story. So the personal soil story, where and when do I feel most connected to soil, water, and the living beings around me? So just take a minute or two. Whatever comes into your mind, just write it down. And the second question moves to the social soil. How is the social soil in my local community changing? And how might this inspire my role as a change maker or soil agent? These questions are also in the chat. Thank you, Antares. And the third question, what futures can I sense emerging from the social soil at a planetary level? And how might this inspire my role as a change maker and soil agent? Okay, just wrap up your thoughts and finish your last thought, put it down. And then Peter's just gonna take us into breakouts where we can share however much we want from the thoughts that we just had.
Thanks, Christine. And before we go there, there's a question from Marjolein. What the social soil is, so I understand the second question better. So there's a link a little bit higher in the chat to a page from Antara's project, the Institute for Mindful Agriculture. So there's a Rick Hull shared it at 444. So there's a really interesting sort of like 3 types of soil that you could look at as a resource for later. But for now, what we mean with that is we sometimes talk about the social field, sort of like the field that lies between us as people. And when we talk about the social soil, if we imagine the field, like a field of grass or flowers, and the soil being beneath that, like how can we support, like if we want to support that social field, maybe which is common ground or mutual trust or mutual understanding or whatever it is, the social soil is that which supports that social field. It's underneath that. And at the same time, we're also aware that this is something that we're still understanding or trying to understand and learning a lot about. And would also love to hear how you see that. So with that, I'd love to just invite you to join breakout rooms. Antares will send up the invitation to share in groups of 3, and most likely it will be the same groups as for the check-in. Share what has come up with you. You can share any answer that has come up for you. It doesn't have to be all, just whatever rings most true or you feel is your call to share. Make sure you have about 3 minutes each. We'll remind you, and then we'll come back here and have a chance to hear some stories and some voices of what has come up for you in this journaling. So enjoy and see you back soon.
Yes, enjoy.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Time is always too short for all the wonderful sharing that's possible. So I can sense, also looking at your faces, that there's more in there that wants to come out, and we'd love to hear some voices of what has come up. Yes, absolutely too short. So we have the chat. Feel free to share in the chat, but also if you want to share what you've heard or what has come up in your group, feel free to raise your hand. Use the raise hand function. We'd love to hear some voices. Could be a pattern maybe that already emerged between the 3 of you, or sort of anything else. Yeah, Mirielba.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody. I'm this is my first Gaia's meeting, so thank you. I'm very grateful to be part of the Presencing Institute. I belong to the ICOLA Venezuelan hub. I'm going to write the name below, and so you learn about us. And so I'm new. Okay, I'm really green on this, and I'm a little seed, and I'm looking for my soil. I'm looking for ideas, and I'm amazed that each time that we go to breakout rooms, I put that on the chat before, that it doesn't matter that we come from different countries, it doesn't matter our background, it doesn't matter our context. I think it's pretty amazing that everybody is looking for or is aiming at the same goal, which is the protection of our planet, which is the improving or the quality of life of our communities. And I think this energy is amazing, and I'm really grateful and proud to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mirielba. It's wonderful to have you with us. We really were hoping that soil circles would be something for people that have been working with awareness-based system change for a long time, as well as people that are very new. So anyone is welcome. So very happy to have you with us. Is there anyone else that wants to share what has come up in your group? Maybe some examples? Sana?
Yes, yeah, we had a very nice conversation, and we basically all realized that I think we could relate a little bit on the fact that it can be very frustrating if you want to change the world around you and you want to change people, and that it actually all starts by yeah, like really feeling in your core for yourself what kind of changes you want to yeah, you want to sort of inspire into other people, and you can do that by leading by example. And I think that was the main message that we got from our group.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Lead by example. And I think there's so many things that can inspire us, and we can also be an inspiration for others. Yeah, so just some things are being shared in the chat. Some questions around biochar and using on the land. So maybe someone has an answer to that, or otherwise, is there another voice that wants to share what has come up with you for you in your triad? Ninian?
Yeah, so just what was coming up latterly in our blether was the sense that if one kind of really goes back and explores where I have come from, where the people before me, and just if we explore that and what we know of their relationship to the land, the places we've lived, the ways we've lived, yeah, just where our feet and our hands have been on the soil. So to do that, particularly in cultures which are no longer indigenous, but really just to trust in that, that we in fact can connect with something that is really deep. And that we tend to think, oh gosh, that's, you know, Native Americans or Aboriginal culture, and those are totally to be celebrated. But actually in our own stories, we can also go there.
Thank you, Ninian. That reminds me of sort of not only the weaving around the globe, but also the weaving through time, and how we are connected to our ancestors, and also, I don't like using the word offspring, but sort of like those that come after us, and we're connected in so many ways. So there's some more sharing happening in the chat. Is there any last voice that wants to share in the plenary?
Can I just come back as well, Peter, just on that kind of point? I suppose, like for me, there is also something, and I'm speaking from a place where I do know my ancestral line for generations, but there is something, you know, we talk about family trees, but actually to think of ourselves as a forest of community, to think of ourselves all deeply connected through the roots, through, what is it, the mycorrhizal kind of networks, that actually, you know, as a people we are, you know, that's perhaps more true to us. And I think just to think, I come from a family with a lot of privilege, but actually, you know, we depended on lots of others. So actually it's that great deeper sense of connection to each and all, really.
That's really interesting, that what you're sharing there, and that's also has come up in some of our preparation sessions. If we think of the physical soil and the mycorrhizal networks that are transporting nutrients there, what does that look like in our social soil? So, you know, how are nutrients or energies flowing between people? Maybe ideas or thoughts or feelings. How are they being transported? So, yeah, thanks for that. Just making sure there's no person left that feels like sharing before we move on to our checkout practice. Okay, it seems like we're round. So with that, we have Christine. Do you think it fits now to share that image? We can go to that before we go to checkout.
So we had in the background a visual artist, Valentin Mans, who's sitting in the room with me, listening to the conversation, and he has created a a generative scribing image. He's training to be a generative scriber. So for those of you, I'm going to share that with you now. And just so that that can be up while we go into our checkout. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you so much, Christine, Peter, and this amazing drawing that could help us connect and look back at the last few, maybe almost an hour of sensing together and listening to each other, discover stories and connect with each other and weave through the root systems. So inviting us to take a moment to look at this image and look back, process the issues that were raised, the solutions that were offered, and more importantly, the emerging role that we felt is being asked of ourselves in responding to the personal, social, and global planetary challenges we're facing today. And in our practice of understanding our system building, the first definitions that we're defining now, the social soil, is that we are parts of that soil system. And inviting you to also think about the human as the soil or the clay. In many traditions, the origin of the human is related to soil, being shaped as a body. And so diving into that, our invitation is for you to look into how we can shape this circle together in the next 3 to 5 sessions. And we will later share with you how that could look like and how that scheduling could look like. But there are 2 questions we're inviting you to think about. What can the soil circle offer to you? How can we make this a meaningful and engaging journey together? So you can take a few moments to think about that. It can be, an activity or a topic. It can be, a process. And we'd love to be as inclusive as possible, and we'd love to harvest this with you.
And please do write in the chat so that everyone can read, and we're going to read some out as we go.
We're also going to type the question on the chat. There, and then Tara has typed that already. We're also seeing Dieter share about the wind taking us to a new place, and the seeds to the new place, the circle being able to help us do that, to learn about mycorrhizal, I can't even pronounce that myself, mycorrhizal properties and behavior, and how we can relate towards a regenerative human behavior. To learn together to change the land in our own life. Develop a small budget scale community work around soil so people can have a good starting point. Thank you, Julie, for joining. So while some of you are still processing, we are also preparing the next question, but we're also hearing a broader connection with others. So building that connection with other parts of the world. Thank you, Petra. The narrative, a story of coexistence and flourishing with each will reach every corner of earth and air. So while you are still typing, and some of you have already written or reflected on an answer, or maybe chose not to share because there's no need. The second question is, what can you offer to the Soil Circle? How would you like to participate? So we're adding that in question here, but also reading that Tatiana just shared about how could we help unstock the social soil. So we'd love to bring that in the next session. It's a good question and invitation. And Rick was sharing about recognizing so many Hispanic names. So be able to share different languages, that's so important. And important to recognize that. Thank you, Marie, for joining us. And this is still the first session, so we hope to see you in the succeeding ones for those who are leaving now. So again, the second question is, what can you offer this to the Soil Circle? How would you like to participate? So, it can be as open for now. We'd love to listen and discover ways, perhaps Rick speaking about Spanish or bilingual, multilingual, can, if you might be interested to offer language translation or something like that. So again, feel free to share.
And no offering is too small.
Yeah.
So anything is really good. We've deliberately left the development of this space really open as possible to what we need. So please do say what you need, what you might be willing to give.
And we're seeing Terry share about being fully present with the body and being in relationship with all life from here to Palestine. I think a lot of the people in the world are trying to reach that connection in Palestine right now. So thank you for bringing that into our awareness, to co-sense, co-initiate, and co-create, being present. And the soil of conflict, neglect, and trauma is often the most fertile soil. We work with it to transform it into fertile soil of the future. So noting that that might also be an important topic in how soil can be healing and work with trauma, perhaps. And then to receive help from Tatiana, if no one's working on the budget, small budget, and small scale community. This is great. Thank you so much. And then, yeah, so find ways that we could, sorry, that was too fast, to look into the UN Food System Summit later this year, for example. So create ways to connect and collaborate and look at other platforms to be involved in. And then being able to, yeah, perhaps Raquel and Rick can connect on the Spanish group and bring together initiatives related to soil in Argentina and share knowledge about fighting pesticides and transition to agroecology. Mirielva shares about education and working with young children. So thank you. This is a lot of ideas. We're really grateful. And for those who are still thinking about their answers, we're going to be posting this question again as well on the Sutra section of the Presencing Institute. And we will send that link through your emails after this session. Or the link is also here that Tara shared, and you can sign up to join that so we can continue the conversations there. And wanna try, sorry, I think we have a little bit of time left, but just to kind of wrap up, this is the first session. We're building the foundations again for our 3 to 5 sessions. So it's not yet something solid. So the way it's like, we're building the garden, we're preparing the soil, and then the plant life is only beginning to grow from underground. So it's not yet something seen. So we're building that foundation. And like as Ninian was sharing about the forest community, where we right now are building the root systems together. And hopefully that root systems are starting to weave. And as Christine was sharing about where the social soil is about seeing the patterns together. And we're seeing some patterns already emerging from people offering their skills, people offering a way of being together and some intentions for the future. So with that, we hope to weave our root systems further to withstand future challenges together. And this is where we are building the soil, the social soil through this journey. And so as practitioners doing awareness-based change and ecosystem leaders, we invite you to continue practicing with us. And so I'm gonna pass this on to Peter to help share with us how we move forward from this. And if there's enough time, also recognize the additional stuff that showed up here as well.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Sarah. So yeah, there's the chat is still moving. There's a lot of offerings and contact details. So we'll commit to look through that and sort of organize that and see what still needs to be shared. And also we'll do some sense making of everything that you put in. So feel free to keep putting that in. I also see Ninian offering a rundown estate to transform into a community-owned and stewarded landscape. To pass something that will nurture people and seed the good place of the future. So there's lots of offers in there, small and big. And as Sarah was saying, we really wanted to see how the soil circle could serve this community. And we've committed to host at least 3 soil circle events such as this in the next couple of months. And just before we close, wanted to already share roughly what the timing for that is. And the first moment where all of us could reconvene is in about a month from now at the Global Forum from the President Institute. So the exact program is not yet clear. Antares has just shared the link. So some of us will reconvene there in one of the sessions. And what's special about this year's Global Forum is that it's happening on 2 days. There's 2 sessions, and in between there's an invitation to take some solo time in nature. It's called the Forest Walk program piece. So more on that in the link. And I think it's a beautiful chance for all of us to connect with nature in our own place, in our own way. So that is the first moment where we can reconvene. And then roughly about a month after that, we'll offer a second soil circle, and we want to be conscious of different time zone possibilities. So we'll probably the next one will be at a different time during the day to accommodate, especially for all of our fellow human beings that are currently sleeping. And if you want to receive the invitation, we invite you to sign up for the Sutra space. So the link was shared earlier, but maybe Antares, you can just share it again in the chat. That's where we will be connecting in between sessions. And yeah, so it's in the chat right now, where we can connect in between sessions, and we can share any offerings and connect with one another and do sort of networking and offering content and so on. And we will also make sure that everyone who signed up for this session will receive an invitation for the next session. And then we'll have a third one, probably sometime maybe late August, early September. And then see, okay, so after we've prototyped this for 3 sessions, how do we want to move forward? And again, the 4 of us have stepped up to commit to these 3 sessions, and the future is open after that. We really want this to make sense for all of you and for anyone else who's working with soils or farming, food, climate change, biodiversity, using awareness-based systems change work or theory. So we feel this has been just a start of something that could become anything. It's really up to all of us. And I feel with that we've come to a close, actually a little bit ahead of our time. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is unusual and also wonderful, because it allows for some more voices to be heard. So if there's anyone that feels burning or brimming with something, feel free to share either in the chat or just plenary. I've switched to gallery view. We're a little smaller group now. We're 27 of us, and I think we have about 5 minutes to just have sort of open sharing. Anyone that wants to offer anything to the space, and if you want to sign out, that's also of course very welcome. So any voices that want to come into the space? There's a little music from Christine to chime us out.
Thank you so much for everything that's being offered. And I really do want to, I do hope that some of the enthusiasm, people who are crazy for compost. Yes, compost is the new black, the old black and the new black. Please bring that to Sutra, and we will definitely be listening and interacting there, and we can bring that right into the next sessions. This is your space, so everybody's so welcome. Thank you. So maybe if everybody who is off camera can just come on and we can just unmute for a second and let everyone say goodbye in their own language.
Wonderful idea, Christine.
Good.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
No,
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, ciao.
Bye.
Hasta,
thank you.
Hasta luego. Hasta luego. Chao.
Cool.
Cuídense. Chao.
Pineapple.
Ciao.
Gracias.
Hi, everyone.
Good day, good evening.
Oh, there's Petra. Thanks, Petra, for the compliment. Beautiful.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Chao, Petra. Chao.
Ciao. Oh, yeah.
Take care.
Good.
I will be writing you, okay? Thank you,
Adiós.
Peter.
Bien.
Adiós. Adiós, Rick. Gracias.
Salamat. Thank you, everyone.
Auf Wiedersehen, Antares. Tschüss.
Tschüss.
That's right.
Cheers.
I don't know how to say goodbye in Norwegian. Is that Peter
Ha
or
det bra,
Swedish?
ha det bra.
Ha det bra.
Ha det.
Ha det.
Ada.
Thank you, Christine. Bye.